Hello fans and members of the Delta Bad League, my name is Aeriodon, your commissioner, and right now I have this piece of paper in front of me with a lot of words on it. Quite a few words, front and back, actually, front and back, and these words are the changes for next season in the DBL. There are a lot of changes, but none of them are extremely major in my opinion, and none of them are going to really extremely affect the league, I guess you could say. But there are quite a few changes that we are going to be going over in this video. That's the purpose of this video. So we'll start off with the team changes. So in Season 1 of the DBL, the roster size was at 10 Pokemon, and most people felt that that was a little bit too few. It was too easy to predict the exact mons your opponent was bringing. So this season we will probably be expanding the roster size to 11, possibly even 12. Depending on how things go, excuse me, that's one of those things that we'll probably be covering in the review video when we actually finalize all these changes. And another thing, tier maxes will be in place, but the tiers are not going to be the exact tiers that you see on Showdown. They're not the exact Smogon tiers. They're going to be a little bit different, and we'll get to those probably quite a bit in the future. They'll be on the spreadsheet when we release that, but we won't actually go over anything until then. This season, the rules with the Pokemon were extremely free. The only rule was that there was a legendary ban, or a legendary limit of 2, which will be completely gone this year. I don't even know why that was a thing. That's not going to be a thing this year. So you can have as many legendaries as you want, really, as long as they fall under the tier limits. So to keep our teams a little bit more even, because some teams did have a lot of Oymons, which is not a bad thing, because we didn't have any limits on it. But there were teams that had 8, 9 out of their 10 Mons being in the OU tier. So we do definitely want to limit that down and have power distributed among the tiers. Now we're not going to have like the UCL where we have 3 Mons from OU, 3 Mons from UU, 3 Mons from NU, 3 Mons from RU. But there will be a limit to each tier, and it'll kind of ladder down as we go out. I guess right now I'll explain it to you a little bit. So we have OUA, OUB, UU, RU, and NU. And the way we want to do it currently, which this will probably be revised in the review video, we'll have 3 Mons from OUA, which is the most powerful Mons that are not Ubers, basically. 2 Mons from OUB, mainly because it's a lot smaller of a tier, because we tried to narrow down OUA, or just the basic OU and BL tiers, and we only have about 20 to 30 Mons in OUB, so the limit of 2 there really should not be a problem. 3 Mons from UU, and then 5 Mons from both RU and NU, but that's just the limit, so you don't have to go up to that. And then anything that's PU and below, there won't really be a limit on, because if you want to fill your team up completely with PU Mons, you can go right ahead and do that. I don't think you're really going to affect the metagame a whole lot. So that's basically that. We want to have those tiers in place just so that teams are a little more balanced and everything can be not extremely OU oriented. So the next change, still with the team section, we will have assistant coaches this season in the DBL. So, excuse me. So the purpose of the assistant coaches can vary from team to team. It can be almost as a guide to the head coach, and a assistant, I guess, is kind of in the name for a reason. Or they can just be there to basically step in if you can't battle yourself that week. They are the only person that can fill in if you cannot finish the battle within the week. But they can only step in for a max of 2 battles all season. And I don't even think I have this written down, but we will be expanding the schedule as well to 12 games probably from the 10 games we had this season. So of your 12 games, you can have 2 of them covered by your assistant coach if you wish, just so that if your assistant coach is maybe a better battler, we still want the team to be in the head coach's control and have them hold the power. And like I said, their input can vary between teams. That's basically up to the head coach to determine what they want to do. If the head coach wants to have 99% of power, the assistant coach can just sit there and battle if they need be. They don't even have to really have an input on anything else. Or they can be there, they can help you draft, they can help you prepare for your team that week, or they can help you do all that stuff. The only rule, though, is that they cannot communicate with you while you're battling. The battle should be, whoever's battling, they should be by themselves battling. Now, this is obviously extremely difficult to enforce because we can't stalk you and figure out who you're talking to. But we just hope that you can have the trust with us to not be talking to your assistant coaches while you're battling. And hopefully this all works out. Moving on to the next category. Hopefully my throat makes it through this because I have something catching there. So, like I said, the tier maxes before, we will follow those in the draft. But something new and probably one of the biggest changes that we will be incorporating this season, we're going to have 14 rounds to the draft. But as you saw before, the rosters are only going to be around 11 or 12. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to draft 14 Mons, and then once the regular season, or we'll be able to use them in preseason and all of that jazz. But then once the regular season comes, we have to cut down our rosters to the 11 or 12, whichever we end up choosing, and have that limit for that part of the regular season. Now, you will be able to draft over the tier limits, but understand that you must have your Pokemon at the tier limit by the time that we make the cuts. So if we have 11 spots on the rosters by the time the regular season starts, but we draft 14, that means you can only draft a total of 3 spots over the tier limits during the draft. But we'll get into that a lot more into depth when the draft actually comes around and I'm explaining this to people, making sure that everyone understands. For the draft, we will have some new Pokemon. The only one that's really confirmed right now is Blaziken because it's not really a huge impact on anything. And Blaziken is really just like a poor man's Infernape because it doesn't have the speed and it does not have the coverage that Infernape does, and it can't even set up rocks really, so it's not as good as Infernape even. So I don't think there's any complaints there about having Blaziken in the league. And we're also considering XY set Greninja, which is split basically right down the middle between our members now. And we don't exactly know whether it will be in the league or not. That will probably be having its entirely own video when we decide on that. But we will get to that when it happens. Landorus Incarnate, which was legal in this season but then was banned to Ubers about halfway through the season, will most likely be legal next season in the DBL. And Hoopa Confined will be legal, but we're not sure about Hoopa Unbound yet. Or possibly Hoopa Confined may not even be legal either. But again, that will all be reviewed later on. And Deoxys Speed and Deoxys Defense, which were also in the off-season form that was given out to all the members, most likely will not be in League next season, just for the purpose of keeping it balanced, and they do add a different feel to the metagame and would just kind of make it overbalanced, especially with the extra psychic types. Again, for the draft, trading picks will be allowed. Now, it may be kind of a complicated procedure, and I'm assuming nobody will really trade their picks, but it will be allowed, and I will get to that more again in the draft-oriented video. And we will be having a metronome tourney on Showdown to decide the draft order, which, if you watch the Global Battle Association, we'll just call it the GBA because I can't really say that. If you watch the GBA at all, you know that they, for the D-League this season and the Major Leagues this season, have had a metronome tourney to decide the draft order, and we'll be doing that as well. We'll have our Mews, but the difference is that I will allow you to adjust your EVs and IVs on your Mews to fit more where you want to be in the draft, so you have a little bit more control. So if you want to have that last pick, or you want to be more towards the end, if you want to lose basically, you can run 0 EVs and 0 IVs and everything, and just basically make your Mew worse. Now obviously Metronome is random, so nothing's 100% there, but you can still try to push it in whichever way you want to go. We will be remaining with the Snake format for next season. Obviously, it's an extremely fair way to draft, and nothing will change there. And we might try to possibly do it all in one night or one day on Skype or on the spreadsheet. Or, I know a lot of members work and have school, which is a thing. I mean, we can't really control that. So we may just do it again like last year and try to get it done at least within the week and talk to people whenever they can message and go from there. For the off-season, the only real thing is that we're going to have new teams. We're going to be expanding the league to 12 teams next year unless something drastic changes and we go to more members. But most likely 12, so we can expand for the next few years as well. For preparation, I just want to stress everybody. I want everybody to bring battle-ready Pokemon. Everybody was good with that this year, but if we could at least get better with that and have different sets on our mons, not bring the same mons each week, which, again, isn't a completely horrible thing. At least those mons that were brought are competitively viable and capable of playing well in OU, but we just want to make sure everyone has good EVs, good IVs, good natures, good movesets, and that they prepare well for their opponents so that we can have the best competitive environment as possible. For the battling section, so in this season we basically followed most of the Smogon clauses, and we will be doing that for this season. The only difference is we'll be allowed 2 of most items, and the only item I've written down now that will be limited to 1 yet is Focus Sash, but we may find more that should be limited to 1, and put those in the review video that will be more towards the beginning of next season. But as far as now, all of the other Smogon clauses will be observed, or all of the major ones. I don't know if Baton Pass will be observed or not. We'll get to that again. The review video will probably be longer than this one because I'm saying so much stuff will be saved for that video. But Sleep Clause will still be intact, Moody Clause will still be intact, and the Oko Clause will still be intact 100%. Nothing will change there. For disconnections, so we did have a few disconnections this season. Basically, try to replay to the point where you DC'd. If you can't remember, I guess, then just get as far as you can. Be honest with your opponent, and try to go live when you can't remember what the next move was. And if any hacks or rolls change kills, basically, the battle will just go live from there. That's how we played it this season. Try to replay everything as far as you can, but if anything drastically changes the outcome of the battle, potentially, then just go live, change what you're going to do. It's a different battle from that point. And Mega Dynamics will most likely remain the same. So, basically, Mega Evolve the first turn that you actually stay in an attack. Other than that, you can switch in and out as much as you need to. But the turn that you decide to stay in and actually attack, you must Mega Evolve. And finally, onto our last category here, we have the weekly category. So, if this was perfect, we'd have everybody contacting their opponent ASAP on Sunday when the battles are announced. Try to schedule your battles from there. And a new change this season, which I don't necessarily like to enforce, but this season we did have a lot of matches go over the week and be played later on in the following week, and I don't want that happening this season. Not that it's a major problem, but with more teams and all of school and everything going on, as will a lot of people, either school or work for, I'm pretty sure, everybody, then it gets really hard, and it's hard to organize everything. So basically, the way we're going to have it, if you hold back the battle from happening that week, and your assistant coach doesn't really fill in, then your team will be given the forced forfeit. Now, I'm not trying to be mean here and just automatically give you guys forfeits. I don't want to see forfeits personally because I feel like the battles themselves would be more beneficial for the league, but we want to have everything done by the end of the week and be able to move on to the next week without anything dragging over. So, we may ask for screenshots just so that you can prove that you've been trying to contact your opponent and they haven't been contacting back. I'm not trying to get into your personal information. You can crop out any other things that maybe tear on your screenshot, but just the basic messages, either on Skype or Twitter, is what we want to see there. Showdown will only be allowed in very, very special occasions, and those special occasions being if Oris is not working properly, which, with the battle between the CrossCrusaders and the Golden State Wartortles, there was just a problem with the battle, and it wasn't working for either of them. They both tried their teams on Battle Spot. They both worked there. Then when they tried to actually challenge, it just didn't work. So in that exception, we would definitely grant access to Showdown for that battle, and for Wi-Fi problems as well, if you're not being able to connect to Wi-Fi for the entire week and your assistant coach cannot fill in, then we will grant access to Showdown again. And again, you'll only be able to use Showdown twice that season. We're keeping the limit at 2 times for these specific things. And that 2 times for Showdown will count for your assistant coach as well. So if your assistant coach needs to battle on Showdown, then that counts as one of your assistant coach battles and one of your Showdown battles. So you're down to 1 for each of those already if you have to do that. Because it's 2 per team, essentially. But other than that, if you don't have a 3DS ready, then you're out of luck. Basically, if you don't have a 3DS ready, then you can use Showdown until 2 weeks and hopefully get a 3DS that works by that time. And if nothing else, at that point your assistant coach would take over the team. And in that situation, I know it would be going over the 2-team limit or the 2-time limit for the assistant coach. But that means that the head coach would be irrelevant at that point. And if that doesn't work, we'll find someone else to take over your team, basically. Not trying to be harsh again, but that's what we have to do. I hope you guys can understand that. That's actually pretty much it. We've read all of the words on this piece of paper we have right here. So, if you have any strong feelings about any of these changes, put them down in the comments below. Don't worry too much about XY Ninja yet, because like I said, we'll probably have an entire video about XY Ninja, because we definitely want to make the right decision there. And I don't want to be too biased with it. I'm just keeping it around in case, because I think exactly half people want it, half don't, 4 want it, 4 don't, when we did the off-season survey. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully this video is not too long, and hopefully you did watch the entire thing so you know what is going on next season. But there will be, again, a review video where we'll discuss and finalize all these changes, and everything will be perfect, hopefully. And everything will be just perfect. But other than that, thank you for watching this video on the DBL channel. If you are new, be sure to subscribe so you can catch more info and announcements and updates and content on the channel. Go follow the DBL on Twitter and check out all the members whose links are down below in the description, down a little bit. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and the DBL will be back very soon. Goodbye.